often call kindness are sometimes rooted in fear, approval seeking, and self-abandonment. True kindness includes compassion for yourself as well as others. Our opening quote for today is, "You don't become more loving by disappearing, you become more disconnected from yourself." Welcome back to Conversations in Becoming. My name is Mickey, I'm your host, and this is episode 6. I'm so glad you're here. Today we're going to talk about something that a lot of us tend to wear sort of like a badge of honor, and that is people pleasing. Maybe you've described yourself that way for years, like I have. I still do. Maybe you even believed it was one of your best qualities because it meant you were kind and thoughtful and generous. But what if we've been confusing kindness with something else? What if those ways that we learn to care for everyone else has been quietly pulling us away from ourselves? So today is not about becoming less loving. That's certainly not what I'm trying to say. That's not what we want to get out of this episode, okay? It's about learning that real kindness also has room for you. So let's get into today's conversation. Have you ever said yes when you desperately wanted to say no? Stayed quiet because speaking up felt selfish? Gone out of your way to make someone else feel comfortable, only to then go home feeling exhausted, resentful, or invisible? We feel like we're being good hosts, good spouses or partners, good family members. And for many of us, we've called that kindness. But what if it wasn't? What if what we've been calling kindness is actually something else? So today I want to explore one of the biggest misunderstandings that I see in women who are rebuilding from divorce, career change, empty nest, or some other big life event. So one of the places that I saw this in myself really clearly was in my marriage. I loved hosting family events. I did, I still do. Birthdays, holidays, Halloween parties for my grandkids, Thanksgiving, all of the things. I genuinely enjoyed creating that whole party, holiday, whatever atmosphere for all those people that I loved. So I spent weeks planning. I bought decorations, I made decorations, I came up with activities for the grandkids so they wouldn't be bored. I made sure that the menu included favorites for everybody. And then I shopped for all the supplies, I did all the cleaning, I did all the cooking, I did all the prepping, just to make sure that that event was perfect, right? But after a while, I started realizing that I was carrying everything. And I didn't want our guests to be doing things. I wanted them to show up and enjoy themselves. But as people were showing up, I was in the kitchen finishing up dishes or dealing with grandchildren or making sure everybody had drinks, whatever. Meanwhile, my husband was not helping me. He was sitting at the table, talking with our parents, talking to the kids, playing with the grandkids, walking around our property, showing people things, whatever. So I was left to hold everything myself. Then when everything was over, our guests would leave. And a lot of times, if it was late in the evening, he would just go to bed, which meant I had to then clean everything up, or at least clean up enough of the food and dishes that the rest could wait for the next day. But then I had to put the house back together, all the things. I want to be fair to him. As time went on, he did start helping at Thanksgiving. Really, this story is not about whether he was a good husband or a bad husband. That's not the point I'm trying to make. This story is about me. Because here's what I never did. I never stopped and asked myself, why do I think that this is all on me? Why do I think that this is all my responsibility? I just thought I was being thoughtful. I thought I was being a good wife, the way a wife was supposed to be. I thought I was just showing love. But what I was really doing was making sure everyone else was comfortable while ignoring all of my own needs, telling myself that my needs could wait until later. But the hardest part is, for the longest time, I didn't even realize I was doing it. And so yes, eventually I became resentful. But I wasn't resentful because I was hosting those parties. I wasn't resentful because I willingly took on everything. I didn't generally ask guests to bring food. I didn't ask them to clean up. I didn't ask those things. I didn't expect it of them. That wasn't the part that bothered me. I was resentful really with my husband because when he didn't help, and then I never felt like I was allowed to say, hey, hello, I need some help. I didn't do this by myself. So people pleasing is not the same thing as kindness. And understanding the difference might just change the way you see yourself forever. So first I want to say that people pleasing was never your personality. People often describe themselves that way, right? I'm just a people pleaser. Like it's some personality trait. But it's not a personality trait. It's an adaptation that you learned. Somewhere along the way, probably when we were young, we learned that being agreeable was safer than being authentic. So I don't think that I came into the world as a people pleaser, but I became one. I'm the oldest of 4 girls, and growing up, somewhere along the lines, I took it upon myself to be the one who held things together. You know, I kind of thought that it was my job to keep the peace. Not that they ever listened, but that's not really the point. I felt like as the oldest, that was just something that I should do. So I learned really early that disagreeing for me was not safe. I could never really speak my needs to my mom. And my mom was amazing, but with me, we had a struggle, and I could never tell her what I needed. So having my own opinion, which frequently differed from those of my mom and sisters, it often led to conflict where I lost every time. So instead, I tried to become the easy one, the responsible one, the one who tried to make everything okay. That little girl deserved compassion, but adult me deserves freedom. So here's our first becoming moment. You weren't born to disappear. You adapted to survive. So maybe you grew up in a home where conflict wasn't welcome. Maybe you learned that love was more secure if you were helpful. So maybe you became the peacemaker, the helpful one, the easy one, the responsible one. And your brain, as a small child, made a completely understandable connection. If I can keep everybody happy, then I'll stay safe. That strategy probably served you well for a long time. And that's an important thing to acknowledge, because we don't heal by judging the way that we protected ourselves. We were little, we learned those tactics to keep ourselves safe, and that's fine. But we heal by realizing that we're grown and we don't need those strategies anymore. So next I want to point out that kindness and self-abandonment are 2 different things. And this is where I think so many women get stuck. We're kind, we're generous, we're compassionate, and those are really beautiful qualities. But kindness, real kindness, doesn't ask you to betray yourself. For years in my marriage, I knew that I wasn't showing up to be the kind of wife that I wanted to be. I wanted a relationship where we could talk openly. I wanted to be able to tell him what I needed. I just didn't know how. So I stayed quiet. I avoided conflict generally. And I convinced myself that keeping the peace was the safer option, the quieter option, the least disruptive option. I'm sure some of you can relate. But looking back, I can see I wasn't actually protecting my relationship. I wasn't helping it grow. I was losing myself inside it. So it took me a really long time to understand that constantly making sure everyone else was comfortable wasn't kindness. It was just the way I'd learned to survive. So our becoming moment here is that love doesn't require you to leave yourself behind. If saying yes means ignoring your own needs every single time, that's not generosity. If keeping the peace means swallowing your truth, that's not compassion. And if everyone around you is comfortable while you are quietly disappearing, that is not love. Healthy kindness has room for two people, you and the person you're caring for, not just one. So last point that I really want to push today is that kindness includes you. Imagine treating yourself with the same understanding that you treat everyone else with. The same patience, the same grace. What would change? You wouldn't become selfish. You wouldn't become unloving or mean or unkind or cruel. None of those things would happen. You would become whole. So our last becoming moment for this episode is the way you care for yourself is what teaches other people how to care for you. So these days, I still consider myself a kind person. I still love helping people. I still care very deeply. I still love hosting those family events. But now, before I say yes to something, I pause and I ask myself, am I giving this freely, or am I saying yes because I'm afraid of disappointing someone? That one question has changed so many of my relationships, because women who trust themselves don't become less loving. They just stop believing that love requires self-sacrifice. That's the difference. Real kindness includes you, always. Okay, so it's time for our reflection question for this week. So I want you to take some time to think about this question. Where in your life have you mistaken self-abandonment for kindness? So I want to ask you today to take a few moments and notice one situation where you automatically put someone else's needs ahead of your own. No judgment, just notice. Awareness is where every lasting change starts. If today's conversation resonated with you, I just really want you to carry these thoughts through the week. You don't have to stop being kind. You don't have to become harder. You don't have to care less. I really want you to give yourself permission to include you in the care that you've been giving everyone else. It's not selfish. That's how self-trust begins. Until next time, keep becoming. Becoming doesn't end when the episode does. So if you'd like to explore today's topic more deeply, my guide, Boundaries Are Beautiful, expands on the connection between people-pleasing, guilt, and healthy boundaries, using practical tools, reflection questions, and gentle exercises to help you begin choosing yourself without losing your compassion. You can learn more about this guide by following the link in the show notes below.